Thanks for attending. I can't imagine a full day of teaching and then having a workshop on a Wednesday in October when it's been such a busy school year with so many disruptions. So I'm going to share my screen. Wish me luck. And let me know in the chat if you can't hear me. Okay, that will be helpful. Okay, so my name is Sarah Newton. I live in Smithers, BC. I just moved here from Revelstoke, and I'm just learning about the Wet'suwet'en people who live in Smithers. I don't even feel good enough to make an Indigenous acknowledgement for Smithers yet, because I'm still learning so much. I haven't even met a Wet'suwet'en person. I've been here for a week. Okay, but I am from Revelstoke for the last 18 years, been teaching there, and that is the territory of the Sinixt, and they're on the map right there. And that territory is all along the Columbia River. And as you can see, most of the territory is in Canada, but all Sinixt people basically live in the United States. They were pushed onto a reservation within the last 150 years. They're on the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation with, I think, 11 other groups. And this territory on the Columbia is shared between the Sinixt, but also with the Secwepemc, the Ktunaxa, and the Silks Okanagan. And I just want to acknowledge the continued struggle the Sinixt have for representation in Canada. They recently won a Supreme Court case to have the right to even hunt in Canada, but they don't have a presence here, really. Okay, so I'm going to talk about sustainable classrooms, and a lot of it's around empowering kids and reducing waste. And I've tried to make it as painless as possible. So getting the kids to do a lot of stuff and integrating my practice into other areas so that I don't have to do a lot more work. So I'm going to show this little video. Wish me luck. Okay, so I'm not sure how it works with the volume, and we're not watching all of it, but I don't know how you're going to tell me if it doesn't work, but I think it's going to be okay.
I'm going to give you a little tour of my classroom to talk about ways that we reduce waste. And all of the things I'm showing you, my class and I have discussed and weighed the pros and cons of different choices. And often we come up with things that I'm surprised that I hadn't thought of. So we discuss options, but this here is the core value when they come in on the first day. And when I speak to the parents, it's why I believe we should be learning, and it's to be a force for good in the world. And I talk about grit, curiosity, and optimism. So being a force for good is the underlying message of my whole teaching philosophy that I talk with the kids about. So we have a common saying in English, we're going to throw the garbage away. We're going to throw the broken can away. And we really talk a lot about there is no away. It's somewhere in our landfill or being shipped overseas to be burned for electricity. There's no place where stuff goes that's invisible, like it goes somewhere. And so we really go to the root of that, like where our things go when we're done with them, and someone else is paying the cost of that. We might not be paying the environmental cost, but someone is. And that's that whole idea of environmental justice tied in with poverty and inequality and oppression. So we do take a tour of our landfill and our recycling center, and then we really question, well, where does it go? And we try and follow the trail of where our recycling and garbage goes. And when they see that so little is actually truly recycled, with the exception of aluminum cans, it drives it home to them that it is our job and our responsibility. And that's really important. Their idea is the life cycle, like stuff goes somewhere, it never really disappears, a lot of it, and that helps them come up with plans on how to limit their footprint, and the fact that it is their future, that we've messed up and they're the ones who are going to solve the crisis, and it is attainable. The solutions are in other countries already being done, and that gives them a lot of hope. That idea that the solutions are already in place in other areas. And we actually live in a place where we have a lot of power to make changes. If we lived in Bangladesh or a low elevation island in the South Pacific, it's dire. Here we have a lot of privilege. We have a lot of room to tighten our belts, a lot of room to make changes to improve the level of waste and waste. Yeah. All right. So at the beginning of the year, we, for the first 2 days, we just throw everything in the garbage. I don't say a word about anything to do with how to sort. And after 2 days, I've saved it. We do a garbage audit. We lay it out on the floor and the kids discuss how we could reduce waste. And they come up with ideas like composting, paper recycling, plastic recycling, and we really dig deep into that. And so in the end, we come up with, yes, we should paper recycle. And yes, we will compost. And they're supposed to take stuff like this home. We talk about the economic value of buying their yogurt in bulk or whatever and dividing it up themselves, how they save money and it's less waste. When they do bring single use, I ask them to rinse it and take it home. I'm not going to be recycling plastic in the classroom. It just attracts insects. So we do that garbage audit and we come up with the idea of composting and we discuss who could compost and how we could do that. And then we talk a lot about paper. All right, so paper, we talk about how to reduce the need for paper. And I tell the kids that this loose leaf is most often made with recycled content. So this is a better choice as opposed to the photocopier paper, which is what we're often using. So once they kind of talk that over and the value of using a product that's not made from a fresh tree, they're not so grumpy about writing out a bit more. But when I do photocopy, I obviously double side and I try and put 2 messages on the same page. So for example, the spelling test, I would do 3 on a page. I wouldn't waste the paper. And I would use paper that has been rejected from the printer because it was a mistake. So oftentimes on the back of these things, it's something that someone didn't want and threw in recycling that I print onto. I can use the bypass feeder. And the other thing about paper, the kids and I talk about new school supplies every year. And I was really surprised that they didn't mind the idea of using old stuff. So when I gave out the school supplies, I said I would give them an incentive to have it look really good at the end of the year. So in June, when the school year is done, I collect all their duotangs. And if they're good, they get a larger brownie, like I make brownies, and there's different sizes, regular, large, and extra large. And the kids who've taken really good care of their stuff, they give it to me and they get an extra large piece of brownie. The same with school supplies. I tell them, like, our school kids pay to purchase supplies from the school. So they get their supplies and I tell them if the stuff that can be still in good shape, if it's still in good shape, I'll also incentivize that to take good care of it. And that's that critical thinking around respecting resources. So we don't need to wreck things. We could keep them and treat them well.
These are just a few pictures to show the actual process of going through the garbage, the sorting activity, so they could really see what was coming into the classroom in any given couple days. Okay, so we talk about compost, and some people just think, oh, it's this fun hippie environmentalist thing to do, but a lot of people don't realize it's the landfill isn't supposed to have organics in it, and when it does, it isn't supposed to break down. Like the landfill isn't where we're supposed to have rot and things breaking down, and it produces methane, which is a super greenhouse gas. So anything organic that breaks down, if we can keep it out of the landfill, is a huge reduction in emissions, and it's something we can do easily. So I had my little green team research about anaerobic fermentation, which is the bad breakdown without oxygen that happens in a landfill when you put organics in there. So they researched it. They made a little video on YouTube that I'm going to show you, just because it's important, and your kids can make the same video. And we went around class to class explaining why compost was important and showing this video. So I'm going to share my screen and just show you this quick little video that the kids made. Oh, and I have to find out where we were. Great. Okay, here we go.
Hi, we're members of the green team. Now, can you pretend I'm an apple core? In a landfill, and covered up and sealed in. We don't want any icky chemicals or toxins to get into the water and land nearby. So I'm stuck in the landfill, there's no air, and I'm slowly starting to decompose. Since you're squashed down super tight, there's no air.
This decomposing is called anaerobic fermentation, and it creates a mega mean greenhouse gas called methane. Yuck! It's up to 35 times worse for the climate than carbon dioxide. Why? Because in the landfill, there's no oxygen.
Now pretend I'm the same apple core. If I get lucky and end up in the compost, I decompose faster and do not create much methane because there is air in the compost with me. This is called aerobic fermentation. That's a big mouthful, aerobic fermentation. This way, better for the climate because less methane is released. So please compost your fruit and veggies. Thanks for watching. Bye.
All right, so the other thing students noticed was around the dry erase boards. We buy this in big boxes in our school, but what we do once it runs out, we fill it up mostly with water and a bit of white vinegar, like a 1:20 ratio, and the vinegar works really well. I've also read you can use hydrogen peroxide, but we do not need more than one of these in the classroom, and we reuse it. The other thing I couldn't believe we were able to do, but during the pandemic, we use paper towel, and now paper towel only for bodily fluids, vomit, blood, that kind of thing, and the kids know where it is. But the rest of the time, they each have a little towel that are ripped up old towels, and they have it at their desk. We have a little clothesline on each desk, and they use this all week or whenever they need a new one, and then they're washed at the school. So that's helpful. And then we came to the biggest challenge of all. The kids really were frustrated with expo markers. They believe, and I believe them, I agree, that there's less ink in these every year. And you can recycle them supposedly, but I really don't believe in a lot of truth around plastic recycling. So we wrote Expo as a class. They dictated the letter to me asking that these should be refillable or at least have more ink. And sadly, we did not hear back from them. So we took it into our own hands, and you're gonna follow me over here. Here we go. We have a station over here with a soccer sock. And we put the Expo when they run out in the soccer sock, and we spin it super fast for 5 seconds like this. And not much longer because it'll explode out the end, and I've had a mark like up my classroom of ink. But it gives you about 20% more life in your marker, and that works for any marker. Just do not do it too long, 5 seconds. So then when they're done, and they're really dead after that, we're collecting them right here. And this is already a year's worth of marker. Like, it's so terrible, but we are going to use them for an art installation. We're not sure how, but that was the only solution we could come up with. And that's it. And I forgot to tell you, we just attach the cloth just like this, or some of them, they like the clothesline. They, it depends what they're into, they decide. And the other thing I wanted to point out is just the whole idea of rethinking and to really ask the students for input because they come up with great ideas. For example, we would have these bands, they're kind of like a fidget, but they were always wearing out and rotting. And I said, okay, what can we use? I'm not buying these. We're not waiting for the order to come in, etc. And they actually came up with the idea of course, there's no one around here, right here. Yeah. The inner tube. So the bike shop saved them for us. They're about to be recycled. So we're actually finding a new life for them, and they do not wear out. They're great. The other thing I wanted to talk about was we use the projector a lot because then I'm not using expo markers, and the kids aren't getting a lot of photocopy paper. So that was our solution for the expo markers. A part of the solution was using the projector. And we're going to walk over to my sink. The whole school bought class sets of these. So that we don't have to be using disposable, and we never do. And if there's a school function, we just bring them down to wherever it is. And because they're color coded or numbered, we can find them and get them back in our classrooms. That's it. Okay, so the other thing I talk about with the kids, giving the laminator a break. This is a little pet peeve of mine. We laminate so much as teachers. It's like our favorite thing to do. So I'll use cardstock if I have to, but we definitely give the laminator a break. And in our school, we've become really good. We're not taping things anymore. We use sticky tack, just a little bit less waste. And one of the kids this year pointed out to me that, why am I using a stapler to put things up when I could be using tacks? And I'm like, that's a good point. So the kids are really great. We use tacks to put things up, and we really try and give the stapler a break. The critical thinking component of my teaching revolves around getting students actively involved. So we would often go to climate strikes, the Greta Thunberg Fridays for Future climate strikes, but of course other teachers were really not interested because it is a little bit difficult and there's conflict with parents, and we found a way around it in our district to get other teachers motivated, and that was through this man. This is my superintendent, and he had the idea of not having climate strikes but having expos. So we had big like science fairs with a class from the high school and a class, my class at the elementary level, making science fair booths about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And that's what you're seeing here. So we had hands-on booths. Everything were ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, from making your own toothpaste to learning about transportation of food. And it worked. We got 600 children out our first attempt. So just that little mindset of making it not a climate strike, which is a political event, but making it a climate expo where kids were coming on a field trip to learn more about greenhouse gas emissions, and it worked. To really get kids motivated to have a more global approach to their thinking about waste and resource management, I did a lot of projects like building a local trail for kids to try and have a low impact, that to show that their actions have value. And then we did a lot of work around biking to school and motivating kids by having them have a lap through the school if their class had 90% or more participation in biking to work. We raised money to plant trees. We brought Indigenous knowledge keepers into the classroom. We wrote letters to local politicians. We fundraised for an outdoor classroom. We did a photography unit all about nature and noticing the small beauty around us that is worth protecting. We looked at building sustainable houses and a full analysis of how to reduce waste at home. We also came up with ideas at Christmas, and we put them on display downtown, of things people could buy that were experiences as opposed to more products, buying more stuff. We also did a massive unit on looking at the life cycle of different everyday products like jeans, pencils, and batteries, etc. And that was very eye-opening for the kids to see the life cycle from extraction to manufacture all the way through to consumption and disposal.
Okay, so I just want to know all those things I said had been doing. It's over a decade. Like it takes a lot of time to implement new things. And I wanted to thank you for putting up for that terrible quality video that I made. As you can see, I'm big into the environment, but not so much iMovie. Okay, and I also wanted to say about the composting. It's a big deal if you can do it. And I've had it in my class where I've taken it home. I've had years where a student took it home. And I've talked to colleagues, especially in the Okanagan, that were successful in getting their school to pay for a pickup from some commercial composting facility. I've also had been given the machine that grinds up the compost and dries it out, and then you can just throw it in with your soil. that's a lot of technology for something that's just as simple as composting. But you know, you have a green club in your school, and my school did that. They had ice cream containers, and they went around and collected compost, and it was good. They felt good about that. We had the solid waste management staff person from our regional district talk to the green team about why it was important, and that's how they made the video. Okay, a few quick things I wanted to talk to you guys about when you're trying to make all kinds of changes in your classroom and you're discussing things with students. You're going to get different viewpoints from kids. You know, they all come from different classrooms. And the most helpful thing I've ever done is taught how to, not just teaching kids how to give feedback, but how to teach them how to receive feedback. So anytime there's a presentation, the kids in the classroom know that the audience are going to be asked to give feedback that has to be kind, specific, and helpful. So that's straightforward. A lot of us do that. Teaching kids how to give feedback, it makes it easier. What I've recently started teaching is how to receive feedback, because kids get defensive when they feel that their peers or their teacher are criticizing them. So we teach how to receive feedback, which is to say, no matter what is given, they can say, oh, I never thought about that. Or they can say, oh, that's a different way of looking at it. Or the child getting the feedback can say, thanks, I'll think about that. And that takes away the defensiveness, and it buys the child time to ruminate over whatever the feedback was. And whether we're giving or receiving feedback, I'm teaching the kids to take out the word but. If they say, wow, Sarah, you did a great Zoom presentation. I like the speed that you talked. The slides were interesting. But next time, you need to have a better iMovie. Everything gets canceled out if you say the word but. So we really worked on that as a classroom. So taking out the word but and giving and receiving feedback, it just really made all kinds of classroom discussions way better. And another thing that helped was kids would sometimes say that they went home and discussed it with their parents, and it led to an argument and different viewpoints. So I thought a lot about how to deal with what kids are hearing at home, and when a kid tries to a student defend themselves about something they've learned. And I teach them a few key phrases to use with anybody who disagrees with them. It's, let's say you're talking about the benefits of nuclear power for electrical generation. They can hear one thing in school and another thing at home. And I teach the students to say, yeah, it's a really interesting topic, and it's really complicated. There's a lot of different sides. That kind of just telling them to say, yeah, it's complicated, isn't it? There's a lot to the issue. So those are kind of the key statements they can take home, because it's really important that students learn everything's not black and white, and they love things to be black and white, but it's not. Things are gray, especially when you're dealing with the climate crisis. Solutions, we got here, death by 1,000 cuts. It's going to take survival by 1,000 solutions. And that means there's a lot of gray depending where you are, what the circumstance is. So enabling kids to interact with people who have a different viewpoint by saying, oh, it's complicated, or there's a lot to the issue, really helps. Yeah. And another thing about my sustainable classroom is I never lose an opportunity to inspire kids to be part of a bigger picture, a global community, or the classroom community, and that activism has a huge role in their lives. And one of the things I do for research is we research Canadian heroes, and I'd be happy to give you the resources I use to teach Canadian heroes. The woman I'm hugging in the top is my amygdala is not working. She is a Mohawk First Nation Olympian who was shot during the Oka crisis, Winnie Corn Miller. So that's a hero some kids research. The guys around the tree are Buddhist monks in Cambodia who adopt trees to protect. And the two women holding the babies are two women from New Denver who saved 43 orphans in Phnom Penh. So kids researching, like, don't let them research everything. Like, make it the topic heroes if you have to. Like, whatever you're doing, incorporate inspirational messaging. And another thing is you may have noticed when I went through that video, a lot of whatever the kids are working on, there's always a reveal or a presentation. And I try and make it not just in the classroom, but to the wider public. Like, for example, those little globes, we researched gratitude for during Thanksgiving, and we didn't put these up in the classroom. We took them down to a shop downtown and asked permission to put them up in the windows. Anytime you can get the kids having an impact beyond the classroom is very empowering to them, and they really get behind whatever you're doing. The little collage on the right was a gift we made for our teaching assistant in the classroom who had just had a baby. We made the paper from paper, we ground it up and dried it out, put it on the screens, and then we wrote attributes we wanted to give the baby. So it was an art project, but it used waste, basically. So I never waste an opportunity to be sustainable, to be empowering and inspiring. Same with Read Aloud, book club, novel studies. I really focus on books that have an environmental message, and they're not that easy to find. The Wild Robot and its sequel are really good. The Wish Tree is excellent about inclusion as well. The Silver Arrow, all these books, very engaged and get kids thinking. So I'm not going to read Harry Potter, as great as it is, because I want to get the message out. And if you teach grades 7 and up, Be the Change Earth Alliance has amazing resources that are transformative. I just wanted to give a little push for them. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Now, we are well under the time, and that's because I wanted to answer any questions. And I wanted people, so first of all, ask if there's any questions. You can turn on your mic or you can write it in the chat.
Hi, Sarah. I have a compost in my room, but I'm finding that I have a lot of problems with no-see-ums and mold. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's painful. I know. So I guess how often are you taking it home or taking it away from the classroom?
So I started with, so I went to, we have a booster juice here. I'm in Fort St. John. We have a booster juice and you can go and get the buckets and lids so they don't throw them out. So I was using those around the room. I was taking them home, but then I started covering them with dirt instead to see, because we also have plants growing, and we have a life science. I teach at the high school, so we have a life sciences program where we actually grow plants, and I thought, this is a great way. Plus I did it on my balcony when I lived on Vancouver Island, so, but that was obviously outside. So are you like getting rid of the compost on a weekly basis and taking it elsewhere, and it's not staying in the classroom?
Yeah, I'm taking it out once a week. And I did have a problem like that too. And it was because the container I was using, the kids wouldn't seal it properly.
Right.
So I started just using a big pot that had a lid.
Okay.
That was really easy, and it never stayed unsealed. So the less oxygen, the less things going on. So once a week, and I changed the lid up.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you. I also do recycling because I have to drive by the recycling center every day on my way to and from work. So I've started getting my kids to do that. Plus I have sinks, so we rinse out the plastic and we just return it that way. So yeah, I haven't noticed any insect activity in the plastics. It's just in the compost. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, and if you're able to take it away, that's perfect. And it just models it for the kids. Like, yeah, we can do this. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, exactly. So I also had another question about, because I also do a life cycle of a product project. I do it at the grade 12 level. So I get them to really go in depth, and it's a 1 month research project that they do. How do you scale it for the elementary level?
I'm going to be totally honest. I did it in Revelstoke, which is part of the Columbia Basin.
Yeah.
And so I have access to wild sites, beyond recycling, climate change curriculum. And even if you don't live in the Columbia Basin, I strongly suggest you contact Wild Site. They have these kits, and they have all the raw materials. And I use it grades 5 to 7. And so I scaled it down by using Wild Site's program. They're in little groups, and they look at the life cycle of a battery, a pencil, blue jeans, and I can't remember what else. And then they present it to the class, but Wild Site had it all, these little kits, so they could see it, and they had the worksheets and stuff like that. Yeah, because it's a
Right.
lot. And we're
It
teaching 9
is.
subjects in the elementary. My God, like you're teaching so much. If it's not ready to go, that's why I really put a shout out to the Be the Change Earth Alliance. They have grade 7 to 12 resources that are all ready to go, and they're free, and they're BC relevant and set up with our learning outcomes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Are there some more questions?
I've been recycling since the 1970s, and it's really hard emotionally on me what I go through. So I do the recycling program for my school, which is, if I actually, and sorry, these are laminated, but I am giving my laminator a break. Can you see me? No.
No.
Oh, here. Sorry, guys. Wait. There.
Here we are.
So I try to make it as easy as possible. This is my next thing. And I know recycling is the very, very least thing we can do. The places that I take the soft plastics to, though, do bale it. And there's a guy working there, so it's very clean. So it's like, you know, fingers crossed it's actually being recycled. But I've got like, I just want to show you, this is like the home recycling. So do you think the adults in the staff room can see this, can figure this out? This one's like the soft plastic. It's higher quality plastic that gets baled at the depot that I drive there on my way to appointments. This is snack wrappers because our school produces tons of it. Glass, office paper for our blue bins, e-waste, batteries I can take to the depot. All the plastic writing tools I take to Staples. Hopefully they're doing it. And then I hate styrofoam, but apparently it's like super easy. They just melt it down and make stuff again. I've got systems for the classrooms, like a 3-bucket system, plus our return it containers for drinks. In the staff room is the sort of all the bins that I've brought in. And then there's there's main collection areas in the center of our school. I don't know how to make it more like the participation to be better.
I gotta tell you, I am impressed with what you are doing. Like, holy cow! On
And
top,
sorry, I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
oh, I'm just so impressed. And do you have the custodian on board? Like, is the custodian?
Actually, the custodian on this half is really into recycling, and we have our little vents at the end of each day.
Well, I wonder if she would be willing to weigh the garbage each day.
I've done it before. When years ago, there were actually 2 other people on my like committee with a bunch of kids, and we would do a presentation every month, either on video or like at our monthly assembly, or the kids would act something out. And so I had some extra people to kind of help with this stuff. And we actually, I live in Hope, BC. It's a really tiny little town. So we had the newspaper come and photograph. We had saved all the bags, I think, just from maybe a month. And that was great. But still, you go outside to the field and all the kids are just, not all, I shouldn't say all, because you know what I have to do is like stay positive and praise all the people that got the right thing in the right bin. But there's still tons of it going in the garbage or just being dropped all over the ground. And I live actually across the street, and I don't have a really good fence yet.
Blows in.
It does to all the neighbors around the school, all these plastic wrappers and plastic lids and plastic. Yeah, it's.
Maybe you need to start with some shaming. I mean,
Oh
like,
my gosh. Okay.
You're doing everything right. It wouldn't hurt you to put up a cartoon here and there.
Yeah,
And
so I try to be, because I know that the last thing, like no one's going to positively respond to, as teachers, we know if we yell at a child, we're not going to get the reaction we want, right? We nurture them and gently guide them. I've been trying to do that.
And I mean, I agree with you about being positive, but I know at my university, they were saying the biggest thing that helped with drunk driving was putting a car in the middle of the quad that had been in a drunk driving accident. like bringing it home, and the brain does respond to negative things sometimes. I mean, I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if I could, I'll try to be creative.
Also, the idea of not being environmental, it's a money thing. Like, my superintendent really wanted us to reduce paper consumption because it costs so much,
And
right?
I've been doing the whiteboard thing more and the projector thing, like you were saying, and they have their mini whiteboards. I love that sock thing. I'm gonna try that. But I was thinking we've got some old chalkboards. I'm thinking I might just go back to chalk, get rid of those plastic markers altogether.
Yeah, it's a real sensory thing. I have the little chalkboards for a while, and a lot of the kids, especially the boys, could
Yeah.
not handle it. It was very interesting.
Okay.
But the other thing with the waste and for your staff is holy, kids really need to see us role modeling
Mhm.
the right way, or else they're going to grow into adults that don't do it either.
Mhm.
Like, we need to model, like, I talk about my thrift store clothes.
Yeah, me too.
I talk about growing my own food because
Yeah.
they need to hear it. These poor kids, like, in the beginning of every year, I ask my kids to write anonymously the things that scare them that aren't being addressed. And
Right. Okay.
every year they write their parents fighting
Yeah.
and the environment. Every year. Those are the two things. And we're not talking about the environment enough. Like, we have a mandate from the superintendent's we have a mandate from the government to be teaching activists, children that become activists. We have a mandate from the government to be teaching critical thinking. And I think we need, I don't want my kids to go home and fight with their parents, and I don't want to go in the staff room and fight with the staff, but we are on the right side here. And we need to help these kids by walking the talk. And I think we can tell our staff that.
I have, yeah, quite a while ago, some posters came into the staff room that said something. I put them up around this where the staff work, and it was teachers, it's something like that, like model whatever about the environment.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm not going to give up. It's not an obsession, should I say, but I just look around and I think, dear Lord, we don't have a lot of time if we don't turn things around.
Well, the end, there's going to be a crash, and how hard we land is up to us, really.
Mhm.
And making kids resilient. And I'm always telling kids, I tell them that Seth Klein story that he promotes about World War II and how the Great Britain was surrounded, and there wasn't an extra pot or pan or fence in England by the end of the war because it was all being used for making armaments. Like, we have had austerity before, and
Yep.
people felt good about it as a community fighting for something important.
Working together for, yeah.
We have forgotten that to be part of a team, and the greater
Yeah.
good has been forgotten. And teaching kids to be part of a community that has a common goal is very positive. We need to get our parents, our teachers. Like, if we can't get our teachers on board, we don't have any hope with the parents.
Just writing that down.
But you can, if you just Google Sarah Newton on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's really, as you can tell by my iMovie, but there's some videos there about what happened in England during World War II that I made for my students to understand that we can get through tough times. And the other thing I tell them is, you're not seeing a lot of action here in Canada, unfortunately, but the solutions are out there, and other countries are way ahead of us, because we don't want kids, teachers, parents to go from denial to despair. They have to stop in the middle and go, what can I do? And that's really important. We just don't want to go boom over here, it's so easy. Like, oh, nothing we can do. Might as well just go with business as usual.
Right? Just give up and just trash the planet. Right.
Yeah. So you have to say, oh my gosh, the solutions are all out there in other places being done. We're the ones who are behind. And the good news is, we still live in a democracy where we can write our politicians and thank them for the great things they're doing, and ask them to think of us when they do more.
And I think we are behind because we live in this, oh, my tape, sorry, that was weird. My tape is covering the camera. We are in this, Turtle Island world of plenty here, where things haven't totally affected us like other parts of the world. And I do bring that up a lot with my kids, the class. And I've shown them, poor little children garbage picking.
Mhm.
That's what they do. They don't get to go to school. If they want to eat, that's what they're doing. Or trying to get, a bowl of dirty water that they have to walk 2 kilometers every morning to get. And just being grateful for what we have and not trashing it.
No, it's true. And I kind of think of it, I'm gonna die trying. I don't care if it works or
I
not. I'm gonna
know.
be on the side of the good. I'm gonna be in the cave with my grandchildren going, well, I was trying actually,
I
so
did try to do something. I've got a little a tiny house. It's not a tiny house on wheels, but a small house across the street. There's a big hedge in front, so the kids don't know I live there, but I'm working on changing it into a full-on just garden growing place that eventually kids, when I retire, they can come and learn from it. Maybe before then, maybe I'll let them know. But like that place in California, the urban farm that grows, they have you ever seen that? The urban farm. I think it's called the urban in California. It's a
like a
family.
movie on Netflix.
I don't know if there's some documentaries, the DeVries family. And they've had this, I realize I don't live in California, although climate change might be telling me I am. But it's just a regular house lot, a smaller house that they didn't tear down, and they actually are across from a school. So they do guided tours and they do workshops and all these things on sustainability at home that you can do. And they make their living selling food to chefs and all food boxes and things. But
Yeah, we have no right to despair, because what you're talking about, there's documentaries about Detroit, like the economy has imploded in the last 30 years, yet
yeah,
people are making huge urban gardens and making a huge amount of food. And so we don't have the right to really despair here. Things are pretty good.
yes, they are. Sorry, I won't hog all the time there.
No, this is really good. And the part of it was I wanted to ask questions and answer questions and see if there were any questions, and also if there were things people were doing that they wanted to share that they thought were really good and helpful. So if anyone has things they wanted to share that they're doing or they're thinking of doing, that would be good.
So I just like to say thank you. Very interesting. And I'm seeing that because I was trying to find the video. So I teach early childhood educators at Capilano University in North Vancouver before I was teaching at Douglas College. And and I've been a teacher on the floor. So a few things that you show on the video were like connected me with my previous experience on the floor, like working directly with children. I'm originally from Mexico. I came here almost 20 years ago. And when COVID hit, I went back and lived there for a year. And when I was coming back, I was kind of like, I think I forgot in my many years here how privileged we are. And I have the same frustration that Wendy was sharing with us in terms of like why, like my own children, I have 4 like adults now, but like why they don't kind of like get it, like do more, because I remember that in elementary school, all these teachers like having projects like thinking about waste and thinking about all these things. But then it seems that they forgot, or maybe it's not very important. So when I was coming back from Mexico, I just realized, I think it's just the privileged situation that why I have to do something if I don't see the need, if I don't had a like big problem about like fighting for voicing something, like saying something to others, or different, as you said, from other places. So I think it's very challenging to teach here in that respect. If children haven't or if adults or children haven't gone anywhere else and encountering like much more complex difficulties about just like surviving, or just like trying to get some food or water or like things like that. So I really thank you for that. I will look for your resources and bring that to the class. Like we teach at Capilano based on living inquiry, so that we propose students to learn about like posing questions as you were doing with the children, and then like going through like the creation of curriculum will be based on questions and then orienting the unfolding depending on the different factors, but not everything is known at the start. So this will be unfolding throughout time. So I knew about your presentation by accident. So I'm very thankful that I learned about, like, one colleague sent me so this presentation will happen. So I'm very happy to meet you and the people who join. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, you're really welcome.